Welcome to Nostalgia Pilots, a Mobile Fighter G Gundam series that is more serious about revenge. I'm Hugh.
I'm Jurd.
And I'm Jason.
Spence is off tonight. We're here to discuss Mobile Fighter G Gundam Episode 29, Running Away, Sai Saici in Love.
Oh, I think we're really here to discuss the Mermaid Gundam, but we'll get there.
I am totally here to discuss Sai Saici's fashion choices.
Speaking of fashion, his love interest in this episode is quite dapperly dressed. Like, it is an awesome little, outfit, with the buttoned up skirt, short jacket thing. It's like, I was like, okay, cool.
She definitely has, a Ghibli heroine thing going on with her.
Yeah, I could see her playing with Totoro.
I feel like he was punching above his weight a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of punching above their weight, though, if I recall correctly, this episode opens after the usual intro bits with the Mermaid Gundam, who were immediately introduced to and regret, and the the Toro Gundam, I believe it's called. It's the giant Spanish bullhead because
in the Japanese it was called the Matador Gundam.
Matador, yes, that's right. And so one of the things they drilled into us early on in the show was, whatever you do, don't aim for the head. It's illegal to go for the head. It's bad in the tournament rules. You're a real jerk if you go to the head. And immediately what they do every time now is they just go for the head. That's all they ever do now.
No, they had
been revoked.
No, you're supposed to go for the head. You're not supposed to go for the cockpit.
Oh, the cockpit. Okay,
yeah.
That's fair.
Remember...
But they're also doing that.
Yeah, but I was going to say, remember... Our wonderful mafia boss man with his giant devil throne said, "You can kill each other, it's fine."
And yet somehow no one has killed each other yet. No one has died inside the ring. Everyone has died outside of the ring in unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, that's true. And did you notice how they glossed over? Because the Mermaid Gundam has a very limited weapon set, okay? Basically, it's like, what are those dudes called? The Ready Aris or whatever, Ready Arius, the gladiators. They're like, they got a trident, they got a net, they got a little knife. And I don't think he has the little knife, but that's what I thought they were going for. And then I was like, Denmark? What are we even doing here? But anyway,
Denmark's gimmick is not the trident. Denmark's gimmick is that it's a submersible.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. So they kind of go in, oh no, not the Matadors. I don't remember what they called it, but it was basically like the red cape move.
Yeah,
and
it's like the cape spiral.
It's it just seemed a lot like a net move, but they kind of went past it fast enough to not point out that they were just net on net. That's really all that was going on here.
It's just two angry fishermen.
Yeah, I was a little bit whatever. And then, of course, the Mermaid Gundam manages to decapitate the Toro Gundam, which is a little strange because it's a head on top of a head. And then... that fight's done, but the Mermaid Gundam has been injured, I believe.
Yeah, the thing that's going on in this episode is that the Mermaid Gundam is repaired, and they're a small country who doesn't have the income to rebuild. So if they lose the tournament, they have to go home. They're not one of the ones who can be repaired and then show up as a background character later.
And this is where, again, we touch on this idea that I want, Shin G-Fighter Gundam or whatever. I want to see I want Rain over an Excel sheet being like, shit, can't replace the arm because we spent too much on the cannon. There are some crunchy, league-esque number crunching things you could do with this that they just never touch on because it's always like, man, Rain fixed it. Where is she getting the budget? She's just sitting on top of an entire department? What's going on here?
Well, again, we have established that Neo Japan does have, a big military, because there are, 3 guys in charge of it, and they're always yelling at Domon.
Yeah, and I think they had a champion before Master Asia, so, they're considered one of the front runners, I guess. Right. Yeah, but Master Age has been the one who dominated, the previous 3 tournaments, I think?
Well, the last tournament, and then the tournament before it was England. And then I think the tournament before that one is the one where Master Asia and all the others, bounced to become the Royal Flesh Gang.
Yes, that's right. And in this episode, because we haven't touched on the key tropes and themes of Gundam very much in this show, which is child soldiers. But they hit us with this a little bit in this episode when they're like pressuring the hell out of fucking Sai Saici, like, and the fact that at the end of the episode they're like, oh man, maybe we shouldn't like do that.
I think that this seemed much less like child soldiers to me than it did child athletes.
Right?
So
like,
I feel like this episode, like the metaphor of the Olympics that's not quite there is pressed the most.
It's a little bit undercut, though, I would say, by the fact that Sai goes to the mall and immediately gets in a fist fight with a bunch of grown-ass men.
Right, well... Yeah, well, the thing we open on is our cast watching the fight, and the two grandpas are there because they already know that the Mermaid Gundam's their next opponent, and Rain is there because she's trying to get Domon to pay attention because she's like in charge of strategy.
She's like, come on, Domo, we have to scout this guy.
Domon's strategy of like sucking and then remembering he almost died once and then using the one move he has.
Well, okay, all of those points are perfectly fair, but I'm going to say something that I did not expect coming into this episode. This may be my favorite Domon episode, and it's just because he's really chill for inexplicable reasons the entire episode. Maybe he knew he wasn't the main character of this episode, so he didn't care
Yeah,
much.
like, Domon has a lot of Big Brother energy in this episode.
And to be fair, he's a better Big Brother than the German ninja,
who does not appear this episode, and I was glad of it. Yeah, so Sai Saici bounces because he feels like, yeah, I know I'm gonna beat that guy. I'm like very good. I don't need to Art of War the big fish robot. It's fine.
Yeah, and let's be honest, like he's not wrong. Like
well. I think that the thing that this episode does sell very well is that no one expects the Mermaid Gundam to win, and then the Mermaid Gundam is actually better than he expects.
Yeah, and I think it was doing better before it went underwater, but yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there, because I have some thoughts.
But so Sai bounces, and he sees, like, these guys hassling a shopkeeper in his cool 90s look. And, which I do want to, like, stress is, like, a Charlie Brown sort of reversed color shirt that's, like, green with a yellow stripe. And the pointiest glasses, like sunglasses.
He reminds me of a character of Kamina from Gurren Lagann. Like his glasses.
Oh, they're totally like Gurren Lagann sunglasses.
Like they're the drill that'll pierce the heavens. Like he's trying to summon his inner machismo because I mean, as we've learned, machismo is how we pilot Gundams.
Right. So it really did feel like to me that he was not going to get involved in this, like, crime that he is witnessing until Cecile steps up, like, you took that out of your pocket. What is wrong with you? Leave this poor man alone. And then the three grown-ass men, like, turn on her.
A child.
Yeah, who is, like, literally a child. And then Sai Saici's like, oh shit, it's a girl my own age. I need to impress her.
And to be fair, he just, like, stone cold dropped that first guy. Like, I was caught unexpected, and so was that man. He was just out.
Like, the thing I like about these three nameless thugs that show up in this episode is they're, like, such glass cannons.
Yes, I love the fact that they show back up later in wannabe Gundams.
Mm-hmm. They're in, like, construction equipment.
They're in Ripley's power armor.
Yeah.
They're in, like, rent-a-scooters. They're in those, like, put in a buck and get a Gundam for an hour rent-a-scooters to send to the tourists on. Like, oh my god.
They're just cruising downtown, like, they're like, we've only got 30 minutes left, guys.
I did come around to understand that they were construction equipment, but I was like, okay, so my first thought was, you've got a major tournament going on, you just provide a bunch of these dumb extra suits around town to, like, be a Gundam pilot yourself, but they're really, like, crap and they don't do anything. And that's pretty close to actually what happens, but anyway.
And they even have
Rent a paddle Gundam.
You won't find guys more serious about revenge than them. Or so they declare after they get their asses kicked and run away from a child.
Yeah, so they run away, and the old man is injured, and she's like, who will run his restaurant now? Which is like such a feed line.
And I love the fact that Sai Saichi's just like, okay, and he's great at it.
That whole first little bit kind of seemed like he thought he found a girlfriend and she thought she found someone to cover some shifts. Like, he's like, oh, okay, so they have a little kind of like date sequence, and then she's wandering around, and then she's like, oh no, who will cook in the kitchens tomorrow? Possibly for free. I don't know. And he's like, oh, I know.
Like, I need him. Like, I need it to be at the end of the episode when they're leaving. He needs to to give her an invoice. Like, this is my services. Like, I've worked this many hours. I'm a Gundam pilot, so my rate's higher than others. Like,
I wanted like OSHA to bust up this place, and it just keeps going up further and further. Like, what? 2 children are running this restaurant? Wait a minute. This child is in a robot fighting tournament? What is going on here?
We just see Master Asia getting drawn into court for child endangerment. But yeah, man, like, and honestly, the episode just kind of hits like a cruising moment. Like, it's just kind of chilling out while Sachi's like making fried rice and like.
Yeah, they do the whole thing where like they have a little music video where they go shopping for ingredients. Also for this guy who's like, I guess bedridden now. Like, we never see that man again.
Does he die?
Presumably not, but we never know for sure.
Yeah, because he never takes back over that restaurant. Sai Saici just, like, gets attacked, tries to fight the mechs barehanded, and then Domon swoops in.
Well like Domon and Rain are also randomly walking while they're on their date, and Domon's like, we should go say hi. And Rain's like, no.
Again,
I'm not letting you do that.
In a weirdly good mood. Like, I don't know, what he got into before this episode. Maybe he was dropping a little something, but he's like, hey, let's go check those guys out. Let's go say hi to Sai. Like, he's never, anyway.
Domon never has wanted to be somewhere before.
Yeah, exactly.
Or talk to anyone other than Rain, and even he's rude to Rain.
So, this episode reminded me, and this might be something you're familiar with, Banks, especially. There are episodes of Tales from the Crypt where you've got a half-hour show and it's got a one-hook premise. Like, the final twist is going to come in the last 5 minutes of the show. So the setup takes 5 minutes. Like, it's husband, it's wife, it's whatever. And then you've got to sit through 20 minutes of filler because they got to do the hook right at the end. And
absolutely.
That's what this kind of felt like. It was like, he's going to get a girlfriend? All right, now we kind of got to do something until the conflict shows up. So they just kind of puttered around for a while.
Yeah, they had
the thing that they puttered around with, and I'm not one, like, I don't know what the pun is, but he gives a fake name that is clearly a pun on something. Like, this is not explained. I have no idea what this means. So, listeners, if you know what the pun was, if you understand kanji enough to say that this is why this is funny, let us know.
Yeah, it's and like these type of episodes, like, you're right, Jurd. Like, we saw it coming a mile away, but they gotta fill that 20-some minutes. Like, they gotta flesh that out. Like, they can't, like, you would have thought that, like, you would have got like one scene of him working at the restaurant, and then maybe we'll cut to Chibity or something, like him training or I don't know, chasing Rain down, something, anything. Like, no, it's a lot of cooking and chopping.
This would have been a good episode to just put in a couple of, like, let's get the background, like, ongoing plot stuff inserted slightly, but they don't do that. There's no B plot here. It's all, except for Dolman kind of just wandering around for whatever reason. It's all just Sai and his girlfriend.
Yeah, the thing I like is the scene, like, after that where Hans, who is Cecile's brother, who is the Gundam pilot, shows up at the restaurant, and he's just like, oh, hey, you're this person. And, like, Hans is totally chill. He's like, oh, you're my opponent tomorrow. That's interesting. And Cecile's like, say it's not true. And then Sai runs off, like, the most dramatically possible.
Yeah, I have seen young teenagers, from experience, I have seen young teenagers make something out of nothing to begin with and then inexplicably run away. So I can say that this sort of thing would happen, like social embarrassment for no real reason. Like,
yeah, because it's not like Hans is like, you can't see that boy, he's my enemy. He's just like, oh, are you my opponent? Are you my opponent?
Yeah, it's almost like Sai Saici ran off before he could be like, oh, that's really cool. How have you,
Let's have a good fight.
Yeah, like
I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, like
no way a dude of his age trying to pick up a lady's not like the second line out of his mouth is gonna be like, "Hey, want to go see my giant robot?" Like,
yes,
seriously,
exactly. Like that's like a dude who's been working all summer buying parts and gets like this mint 1960s Mustang all polished up and ready to go. Like the first thing he's gonna do is like, "Hey, you want to go for a ride?" Like. That's like the first thing he would do. Like Sai Saichi's like, oh no, I pilot a giant robot that looks like a dragon. Like,
but to even carry the inexplicable chain of teenage behavior further, then Cecile turns around and is like, "You must fight my brother. You must fight him with all of your strength." And you're like, what?
Right.
He's always wanted to fight you. Like, what? Oh god, it is.
Yeah, because like Sai Saici does not fight like show up at the battle because he's like, well, if I fight him, she'll have to leave for some reason.
And I just love the idea like that it's so funny because it reminded me of that scene of like in Hocus Pocus when the little girl's getting picked on by the bullies and she's like, my brother, he's big and he'll beat you up, and then it's like, no, I got picked on by those guys earlier. I'm just gonna go. Like she's like picking a fight for her brother. Like they gotta fight tomorrow anyway. It's a tournament. Like,
mm-hmm.
You gotta fight him with all your strength.
Yeah, she does smack him, which I thought was interesting.
For what reason? Like,
she's like, you're making us look bad. Smack. We don't need your pity.
Oh god. No,
okay, it does put it all into perspective though, because like her brother gets her to come to this fight location, and then she's got to get a part-time job to cover it. Like, is she throwing her money in for suit repairs? Like, wow.
I think the idea is that she like decided that we can run the restaurant for this old man while he recovers. Just like because she literally has nothing else to do.
Yeah, like, I was hoping this was going to be like an Outlaw Star moment where she was the actual Gundam pilot. Like,
that would have been interesting.
That would have been
like,
cool, yeah.
Like, I do want to see the series 4 years later where she shows up as, like, in the Mermaid 2.
As long as, okay, so we got to get to it now, because, oh my god. So, we've already discussed the scene where the rental thugs show up in their suits, their construction suits, and then Domon basically trashes them instantly.
Yeah. But the thing about that scene that I want to talk about is how it's like an original Gundam reference.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because so the three guys in the construction equipment, they like run in a circle and scream Jetstream Crush, which is a reference to the original Mobile Suit Gundam. Because there was some guys that Amuro fights, I think it's in the desert, called the Black Tri-Stars, who are like a 3-man unit. And their whole shtick is like, they stand in a straight lines and come straight at you, so you can only see one at a time. And then there's suddenly 3 of them.
Gotcha.
And that, like, the Jetstream crushes their attack.
That's
right. I like the idea that the original series is just playing on television in this universe.
Right.
Maybe they have actually been watching anyway.
Like, they watched that, I was like, that's what we should call our giant robots.
Yes, and I love the fact that Domon, he doesn't actually throw any punches. He just sidesteps.
No, he trips them.
Oh, he trips them.
His move, he even says, like, I can defeat these people with 1 foot, or these guys with 1 foot. And then he, like, slightly extends 1 foot, and they all trip.
Right, because he's driving, like, a multi-billion-dollar giant murder robot, and they're in forklifts.
I did. Okay, so to go back to my other thing, I felt like these three dudes showed up in like with like bird scooters that they stole off of like, those little rent-a-scooters. And
Right.
then like Ghost Rider showed up. Like what the level of Anyway.
Yes. It's it's like if Spider-Man decided better yet, it's like Michael J. Fox in Teen Wolf. Like, how are you not, like, how is it not unfair that he's a werewolf with heightened reflexes and senses dunking on kids?
Like they picked a fight with someone and then their older brother showed up and their older brother is Mike Tyson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so the thing that I've been avoiding here, the fight finally starts, and I mean there's a little bit of fisticuffs on like the tournament platform or whatever, but then by use of the Trident mode and reanimation replay, they punch a hole through the platform. The Mermaid Gundam does, I should say specifically. And there is kind of a neat little moment where there's like a water column, and Sai leans in to figure out what's going on, and like the Dragon Gundam gets grabbed and pulled under.
See, that scene right there. I literally looked at the thing and was like, how is he swimming up that column? What the physics defying like thing is happening? Because he literally basically emerges out of this column like the Predator. Like,
well, you know what? I was even willing to buy it up until that point. Up until that point, I thought, oh, it's a pretty neat fight. I don't know what the guys were talking about with all the stuff with the, and then fish mode. Fish mode. They pull in all of the parts of the suit that might actually help you in a fight, and it turns into a fish. Now, I don't mean to whatever, but a screen comes up to cover the face of the Gundam, and it's got a little porthole, which is hilarious. But and my first thought was, oh, well, if they could put like an extra layer of armor in front of their face, why don't they do that all the time? But no, Sai Saici immediately finds the one weak spot, the porthole, and slams it through his, like, what? That whole second half of the fight, I could not even, the little propeller on the bottom of the Gundam.
I thought that was the moment I was like, oh, Jurd's losing it right now.
Oh my god.
It reminded me of like something out of like Inspector Gadget, like, because I know they thought it was probably cool, because like, oh, watch, it'll transform, the kids will love it, and I'm just like, I think Inspector Gadget's helicopter thing is better. Like,
at least the ratio is better because it's this huge thing and the propeller's tiny.
Yeah.
It's so
and then it gets him
it's
into
not
one
like
spot,
the propeller on the Windmill Gundam.
Yeah.
Oh god. The Windmill Gundam.
Anyway, so he manages to defeat him, but everyone's really happy because it was still a really good fight, which was true at least for the part that they saw.
What I want to know is, how did they know it was a good fight when the last part of it, the most crucial moment, is underwater?
They did like have an underwater camera or something.
Oh man, I also want to know, like, if your Gundam isn't kitted out, because that's one of the things I liked about Gundam Wing, is that when they were going from space to Earth, or Earth to space, they had to retrofit the Gundams to fight better in whichever place they were at. Which makes sense, right? Like, you would think zero-G fighting is much different from, terrestrial fighting. Mm-hmm. Why is Sai Saici's Gundam not leaking? Like, is it airtight?
Especially when he rips off an arm.
Yeah.
Like, he ripped off an arm as a decoy move, and you'd think there'd be a little bit of problems with that, but...
Yeah, like, I can understand why the Mermaid Gundam can go terrestrial or in the land, in the water. But, like, Sai Saici has not shown any aptitude for any sort of sea combat.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I thought the ripping off the arm was a dick move, because, like, the whole tension is that your opponent can't repair the damage, so you're going to damage yourself to win, like, and then put it back in.
Oh, bet you wish you could do this, hey buddy. Bet you wish you could do this. I'll just rip them all up. I don't even care. Yeah.
My country's got all the money.
My grandpas can fix this.
Also, I love the fact that we finally get to see the leader above the grandpas.
Oh, like we see the entire like Shaolin temple, and it's all middle-aged gay dudes.
But what's impressive is they all have some sort of hive mind going on because they all speak as one, which is fantastic.
Yeah, he's here. He's finally here. Like, oh, I'm like, why is he always with his grandpas? Where are the rest of you guys? Like, can you imagine him trying to get away when there's like 400 Shaolin monks like keeping an eye on him? Like, come on, guys. Like, if you wanted him to be there, like, use numbers. He's only one child, a literal child. But I guess he's the best of them, so.
Well, that actually leads. Okay, so they have that moment where everyone decides, like Sister decides, everyone, I can't. Sorry, what's the name of it? Hans. Hans decides, oh, I lost, but at least it was a good fight. Like they kind of all have that moment, and then Cecile gets back on a plane. For some reason, she's got to go home. They all go home, and Sai Saici says, "I promise I'll win this championship." And I was like, "Dude, did you even look? Like, Domon's standing right there. Like, you're not." Anyway.
And and again, like you said, Domon's chill. He's like, yeah, you're good, move it out. Yeah, it's fine. I'm glad you getting some confidence.
I feel like I'm gonna cut back to this clip, however many episodes later. I'm gonna like, you didn't win this.
Harsh.
Also, where the hell is George and Argo? We've seen Chivity quite a few times. There's Domon, and now we've got Sai Saici, but we've got no George, we've got no Argo. Like, are they even in this tournament? Like, I mean, like, we saw them on the day the tournament started, like, wondering where Domon was. But since then, nothing. Like, I guess George is just hanging out on the Zeppelin.
George is working in a croque monsieur shop, and Argo is working in a borscht location, so it's very confusing.
They're all, helping elderly people who were hassled by low-ranking mobsters, to rebuild their shops with their specialty foods.
This whole setup is just a thing by the local chamber of commerce to find cheap labor. Like, nothing to do with the fighting in the end.
Yes, the evil man on his devil throne is actually just he's a capitalist, and he's just milking the economy for all it's worth. It's all a big scam. Matter of fact, at the end of the show, he's just going to burn it all down and collect the insurance money.
He's just going to burn down Hong Kong.
I don't know what happened. Must have been a short fuse. No Master Asia this episode either.
Like, well, that's what I'm saying. There was so much room in this episode for any of the background material to move forward. Like, we could have had, I'm sure there's a shifty phone call with somebody back in Neo Tokyo or Neo Japan that we could have had back up on the satellite. Like, there's something we could have done to move the plot forward, but no.
Yeah, Domon could have got yelled at.
Yeah, this is definitely a kind of a one-off episode.
Yeah, and heck, can we find out what happened to Rain's ex-boyfriend?
See, I want to know what happened to the Canadian Gundam pilot. Where's he? Like, he made it to the finals.
Oh, Mr. You mean Argo's boyfriend?
Yes.
He thought he could walk there, and he's still walking over.
He's like the Norse Gundam. They're just rowing there.
I did think of that Norse Gundam while they were fighting the mermaid. I was like, man, at least the mermaid can move underwater. Like, I don't even want to get locked into that dumb boat.
I can see Jurd now just like, God, where's my cancers?
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff.
Okay, so does that bring us to our favorite moments of the episode?
Yes, it does.
So I managed not to talk about this the entire time, but we actually even get a central moment where it is critical. My favorite part of this episode remains how hilarious the Clock Gundam is. Like, I don't even... Does somebody... Okay, my question is there a guy living in a farmhouse at the edge of town who gets up at 6 a.m. to commute the Clock Gundam downtown before the tournament has to start? Like, he gets up and he's going to start,
man.
But it's cold and he forgot to plug it in last night, man, and like... Anyway, anyway.
Oh, man.
Gundam.
They just take the town's like it's like the giant Gundam in Japan, but like it's got a clock on it, and like he has to like someone like has to wheel it down every day. Like, gosh, could we just build another one?
Mm-hmm.
But hey, it'd be a government job at least.
What about you, Hugh? What was your favorite moment?
Yeah, I think that my favorite part was definitely them doing like we're doing a reference to the original Gundam and it's over. Like
yeah, that was
kick into the water. Revenge. We're gonna get revenge or something.
Maybe we'll show up again later. I don't know.
Yeah, I love their line about revenge was also hilarious because they couldn't even be like, "Oh, we'll get you for this." They were like, "You won't find guys more serious about revenge than us," which is just such a vague, like maybe we're gonna actually consider before we try to implement anything.
It's also very wordy. Like that's a lot to yell at a child while you're running away from him because he kicked your asses.
And then called his big brother.
It just sounded very like, "Do you bite your thumb at me?" Well, no, I bite my thumb, but not at you. Like, come on. Anyway.
My favorite moment has to be when they decide the most effective way for the Mermaid Gundam to fight is to take away its legs and give it a propeller-driven tail. Only because I could hear Jurd all the way from the Great White North just yelling at his computer screen.
Because you're right. Like, it was so much more effective up until that point. It's actually doing fairly well.
Yeah, it has Sai Saici on the ropes.
Yeah.
Like, what is it going to do? Flop him to death? Like, oh, come on.
And it's not even like it like turned into like an alligator or something, so it could like grab him in like death roll or something. Like no, it's just swimming around, and it threw a net at him, and then it tried.
A net made of lasers.
Yes, it was a laser net. Lasers.
I kind of hope we do see a later episode where they've got that thing mounted on the wall like a Billy Bass.
Oh man!
Turns and starts singing. Anyway.
Rude.
But finally, I've been waiting all season of this for this next episode. I'm so excited.
I am excited for the next episode, but the one after that's the one that I think is the one that I really am looking forward to. Because the episode after this one, episode 31, is the one where it is revealed that Chibity is afraid of clowns. And he has to fight a clown Gundam.
Oh yes. Oh, and is it a two-parter with Allenby?
Allenby's just a one-parter, and Allenby just kind of like shows up as B-plot for a lot of the episodes after that. Because she's like a girl fighter who's like Rain but cooler, and Rain's jealous.
Yeah, it's hot. This is one of those episodes where, Jurd, like you talked about, I think the last time was like where you can show this show and be like, okay, this is what this show is about. Like when it comes to like the introduction of Allenby, it's like it's a fun time.
Yeah.
Although Chibity's phobia of clowns is also pretty great.
It's because they were just like, Batman certainly came out a couple years ago, right? Batman's American.
Oh man, now I'm just thinking about Chibity as Batman, or at least as Apollo Creed. I need Chibity in some like Star Spangled Boxers.
I've seen, what was it, Batman Samurai or whatever, the one where they go back in time and end up in giant fighting robots with the Joker and Batman in feudal Japan. Like,
listen,
I saw the ads for that and was like, absolutely not.
Listen, if you go to Japan, it has to have kaiju in it. Even if it is Batman and the Joker. Good stuff.
Next time we will be watching episode 30, Beautiful Fighter, the mysterious Allenby appears. And until then, you can find all of our show notes at nostalgiapilots.com. You can find everything I do at hughjodonnell.com.
You can find everything I do over at skinner.fm.
And you can find me frequenting the Nutty Bites podcast, because kind of not doing mine right now. College and stuff.
And Spence can be found at resonantmoon.com. Until next week, Jetstream Crush!
I promise I'll win this podcast.